Victor Frankenstein, a young scientist from Geneva, grows up in a loving family, cherished by his parents and siblings. From a young age, he is fascinated by natural philosophy and the mysteries of life and death. He spends hours reading outdated scientific texts, dreaming of discovering secrets beyond human understanding. When he goes to university at Ingolstadt, his passion intensifies. He becomes obsessed with understanding how to create life. Ignoring moral and ethical boundaries, Victor isolates himself from friends and family, dedicating himself entirely to his experiments. After months of tireless labor, he assembles a creature from stolen body parts. Late one night, he succeeds in animating it, and the lifeless body becomes a living being. However, instead of the triumph he imagined, Victor is horrified by the grotesque appearance of his creation. Stricken with fear and guilt, he flees, leaving the creature to fend for itself. The monster, abandoned and alone, struggles to understand its existence. It experiences confusion, pain, and longing for companionship. Slowly, it begins to observe humans, learning about their habits, language, and emotions. The creature discovers kindness and cruelty in equal measure. Early attempts at interacting with people fail, leading to rejection and hostility. It begins to understand that it is feared for its appearance, despite its growing intelligence and sensitivity. Meanwhile, Victor becomes ill from stress and guilt. His childhood friend, Henry Clerval, nurses him back to health, unaware of the horror Victor has unleashed. Victor's obsession with his work fades temporarily as he rejoices in his friend's company, but the shadow of the past looms over him. Part 2. The creature, now fully conscious and aware of its isolation, begins to reflect on the injustice of its existence. Wandering through the forests and villages, it witnesses the stark contrast between human warmth and cruelty. One day, it discovers a poor family Lee. The creature, now fully conscious of its existence, wanders through the forests and valleys surrounding Geneva, tormented by loneliness and confusion. Every step it takes exposes it to the harshness of the human world, a world that recoils at the sight of its form. Hungry, cold, and shivering, it struggles to survive, learning through trial and error which plants are edible and how to protect itself from the elements. Over time, it begins to observe humans from a distance, noticing patterns in their behavior. It witnesses both acts of kindness and cruelty, slowly piecing together the nature of society. One day, the creature comes upon a small, humble cottage hidden in the woods. Inside live the de Lacy family, a blind old man named de Lacy, his son Felix, and daughter Agatha. Through careful observation, the creature learns to speak by mimicking their words and begins to understand the subtleties of human emotion. From the shadows, it watches the family struggle with poverty, yet it also sees their love and devotion to one another. It becomes enamored with their simple humanity and longs to be part of their lives. Driven by the hope of acceptance, the creature finally decides to reveal itself to the blind patriarch, reasoning that de Lacy's lack of sight would prevent immediate horror at its appearance. Approaching the old man gently, it attempts to communicate its intentions, speaking cautiously and with humility. De Lacy listens, initially intrigued by the creature's eloquence and apparent intelligence. For a fleeting moment, the creature dares to imagine a life where it might belong, where its mind and heart could be valued despite its monstrous exterior. However, the moment is shattered when Felix and Agatha return. Their reaction is one of horror and fear, and in their panic, they drive the creature away. Heartbroken and enraged, it realizes that it will never be accepted by human society, no matter how intelligent or benevolent it may be. The creatures. Victor returns to Geneva, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy, but a dark sense of foreboding hangs over him. The city, once familiar and comforting, now feels heavy with dread. Almost immediately, tragedy strikes. Victor's youngest brother, William, is found murdered. The family is plunged into grief, and Victor is consumed by guilt, realizing that the creature he abandoned is responsible. The horror of his creation's vengeance becomes painfully real, and he knows that the cycle of suffering has only begun. Amid this turmoil, suspicion falls upon Justine Moritz, a kind and innocent young woman who lives with the family. Though Victor is certain of the creature's guilt, he remains silent, knowing that revealing the truth would bring shame and disbelief. Justine is tried and condemned, her protests of innocence falling on deaf ears, and she is executed. Victor's anguish deepens, for he understands that his own ambition and neglect have indirectly caused the deaths of both his brother and Justine. The creature makes its presence known once more, confronting Victor in the wilderness. With eloquence and bitterness, it recounts the misery it has endured and the pain it has inflicted upon Victor's loved ones. It declares that its revenge is far from complete and delivers a chilling promise: Victor's own happiness will be destroyed, and it will strike on his wedding night. Terrified, Victor resolves to protect those he loves, particularly Elizabeth, his fiancée. He takes every precaution, yet the looming threat overshadows every moment of joy. Despite his vigilance, he cannot prevent the inevitable. On the night of his wedding, while Victor and Elizabeth are alone, the creature strikes, murdering Elizabeth in cold blood. Victor is left shattered, grief-stricken, and filled with rage. The finality of this loss destroys any remaining hope he had for peace or redemption. Driven by vengeance, Victor sets out to track the creature across mountains, rivers, and Snow Cove. After Victor's death aboard Walton's ship, the creature appears, emerging from the Arctic wilderness. Its presence is both terrifying and sorrowful, a stark embodiment of the consequences of Victor's ambition. The creature speaks to Walton, recounting its own suffering and the pain that has defined its existence. It explains how rejection, loneliness, and the constant fear it inspired in others have shaped it into a being consumed by grief and rage. Despite the monstrous acts it committed, the creature expresses a profound sense of remorse for the suffering it has caused, revealing the depth of its complex emotions. It mourns not only the death of Victor but also the life it was denied, a life of acceptance, friendship, and love that might have been possible had its creator shown responsibility and compassion. The creature tells Walton that it plans to end its own life, seeking to escape the endless cycle of misery that has haunted it since birth. It drifts further into the Arctic wasteland, determined to disappear into the icy darkness, leaving behind no trace of the terror it has inflicted. Walton observes the creature's grief and acknowledges the moral weight of Victor's story, recognizing it as a cautionary tale about human ambition and the limits of scientific endeavor. The expedition is left to reflect on the ethical boundaries of knowledge, the responsibilities inherent in creation, and the profound consequences of selfish obsession. The tale closes with Walton contemplating the lessons imparted by Victor and the creature. The narrative is a meditation on ambition, morality, and human empathy. Victor's relentless pursuit of forbidden knowledge, driven by pride and curiosity, led not only to his own destruction but to the suffering and deaths of those he loved. The creature's existence, forged in secrecy and abandonment, demonstrates how neglect and cruelty can transform innocence into vengeance. The Arctic landscape, vast and unforgiving, mirrors the isolati.